All right, let's jump right in. We're going to be exploring a really fascinating speculative future. Imagine the United States in the year 2032, a nation that hasn't just grown, it's learned to sprint. But what really happens when an entire country hits a speed nobody thought was even possible? So let's start with a number that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction: 200%. That's last year's GDP growth in this version of America. Not 1 or 2%, which would be amazing, but 200. I mean, this isn't just an economic boom, it's a fundamental rewrite of reality itself.
And you've got to understand that this growth isn't just some abstract number you see on the news. No, it's a tangible force. It's reshaping everything, from how you get your groceries to what a job even is. It's this constant, humming presence in everyday life.
And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This is the core question of our explainer today. When a nation is compounding and accelerating at this insane rate, what's the human experience like? What's the cost? That's what we're here to unpack. This quote from our source material just captures the feeling of this world perfectly. Growth is described as a smell in the air, something that's just everywhere. It's pervasive, you can't avoid it. It's the new normal, and it has seeped into every single corner of life. So let's take a look at what that life actually feels like. We're going to follow a character from our source, a woman named Maya Khan, to really get into the small details of living on this galloping economic tide. Picture this. It all starts with something as simple as her morning cup of coffee. As Maya is getting her day started, her little countertop AI assistant is running a ridiculously complex supply chain model, and it predicts that the price of her oat milk is about to drop.
So why is the price dropping? Well, it's because the system knows in real time that a fleet of autonomous cargo pods, hundreds of miles away, are catching a favorable tailwind over Montana. This is hyper-efficiency on a scale that's it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. Get this. The system then offers to delay her drone delivery by 7 minutes just to save zero point 0.2 cents, fractions of a cent. And you might think, who cares? But when you multiply that microscopic saving by millions of transactions every single second across the country, well, that's how you start to understand the compounding power that's driving this 200% growth. And it's not just groceries, the entire country's infrastructure is completely transformed. Highways have basically become these silent ghost lanes just for delivery bots. You've got these massive dirigibles constantly mapping crop data and selling it on the open market. Cities run their own AI-powered hedge funds. And when one in, say, Phoenix makes a killing, residents can vote instantly to use the profits on things like cooling the sidewalks, with construction crews starting that very same night. It's wild. Okay, but how do you hold a society together when it's moving this fast? The biggest risk isn't some market crash, it's social breakdown. And that's exactly where Maya's job comes in. She's what our source calls an empathy coder. Her old job title was an actuarial science, calculating risk using spreadsheets and numbers. Now, she's a risk dramaturg. Her entire job is to feed human stories of love, betrayal, hope, failure, into the national economic model to keep the whole thing grounded in, human reality. This is all based on this absolutely fascinating principle, the idea of social cohesion as infrastructure. The thinking is that in an economy this fast and this complex, things like trust and shared belief aren't just soft concepts anymore. They are critical systems that need constant maintenance, just like a power grid or the water supply. And stories? Stories are the maintenance crews. So how does it actually work in practice? Well, the national AI might flag a risk. For example, a group of veterans in Detroit are refusing to accept their universal basic equity, basically a share of the national output, because to them it feels like a handout. So Maya and her team use AI and VR to create a powerful news story, a counter-narrative. This story then gets deployed through these massive civic game platforms, and it actually changes perceptions, leading to acceptance. They are literally engineering empathy on a national scale. But what about people who don't want to be a part of any of this? Our source takes us to a whole different world, deep in Appalachia, to a group of people who have completely and utterly opted out. They are the central contrast to this entire story. They're called the unclocked. They completely reject the AI identity credentials you need to even participate in the main economy. Instead, they live on a human scale. They trade with a handshake, and they measure wealth in things that really matter to them, like heirloom corn.
I mean, the contrast here is just so stark, right? On one side, you have the sprinting nation with its AI, its algorithms, and this relentless acceleration. And on the other, you have the unclocked, operating at a human pace, defined by the thrum of a banjo and a sense of community, not compounding interest. While she's visiting the unclocked, Maya gets this piece of wisdom from an elder that really sits at the very heart of the story. If everything accelerates, be the rest note. In a world of constant noise and nonstop motion, be the moment of silence, be the stillness. And this is where it gets truly, truly fascinating. What happens when you take this profoundly human, deeply analog idea and you introduce it into the most advanced digital system on the planet? The rest note is uploaded into that national scenario engine, and the system, it listens. It actually begins to nudge national investment in a completely new direction towards things like sabbatical programs, the creation of slower public parks, and even mandated analog hours with no tech. The machine actually learns from its opposite. And this brings it all right back to us, here and now. I mean, this is a vision of the future, but that central tension feels incredibly present, doesn't it? In our own accelerating world, how do we find that moment of stillness? How do we find our own pulse? Maybe the answer is right there in the final words of our source. Back in her apartment, surrounded by the roar of that galloping economy, Maya closes her eyes, and she feels her own heartbeat, right there, beneath it all, steady, human, and irreplaceably slow.